Welcome back, everybody. Before we talk about what happened with the Second Contact program, we have to first understand a little bit about the First Contact program. Okay? See, the Taygetans are human-looking civilizations from the star system Taygeta in the Pleiades. They come from the lands of Era and Temur. Those are the two planets, okay? For years, they communicated through digital contact with extraterrestrial researchers on Earth, like Gosha. This contact was unusual but highly effective because it was not channeling. It was direct written communication. We got detailed explanations about technology, consciousness, galactic history, and the political structure of the galaxy. Through these conversations, we learned things like how interstellar civilizations navigate space using frequency rather than distance, how time is not linear but dependent on perception, how many extraterrestrial civilizations operate through decentralized councils rather than rigid hierarchies. And most importantly, we learn that the Earth is not necessarily so isolated. It's part of a larger galactic environment. For a moment, it seemed like humanity was finally beginning to reconnect with the larger cosmic community. But that moment did not last. Eventually, the idea of a second phase of contact began to emerge within the Taygetan civilizations. And they wanted to do mass digital communication. The program was not about landing ships on Earth. Instead, it involved Taygetan crews working in the background and communicating with humans more strategically. Taygetan operatives would blend in as normal humans online and in public forums. They would seed information gradually rather than announcing themselves as ETs. They would drop knowledge in scientific, philosophical, and spiritual communities. The goal was to raise awareness without triggering the same chaos that happened during the first contact. The operatives were specifically instructed to deny being extraterrestrial if confronted, precisely to avoid the problems seen during the earlier contact attempt. This is known as the Second Contact program. The goal was not mass landing or dramatic disclosure. It was something much slower, more careful, a gradual normalization. Helping humanity understand that we are not alone. Helping people process the reality of extraterrestrial civilizations without fear. But before that program could really begin, everything changed. Around the same time the First Contact program began to weaken, something extremely serious happened. The now former queen, Alanim of Taygeta, was poisoned. This event shocked many within the Taygetan civilization. Leadership instability followed. Political tensions increased. And shortly after that, communication with Earth began to disappear. This timing is extremely important because it suggests that the shutdown of the contact program was not random. Something happened. Something that changed the political environment around Earth contact. It's obvious to those who are paying attention that the Galactic Federation intervened, and not in a good way, because the communication channels were restricted. The Taygetans were pressured to step back from direct interaction with Earth. The contact program was effectively shut down before it even started, and that raises a very uncomfortable question. Why? Why would a supposedly benevolent galactic organization like the Federation stop a peaceful exchange of knowledge between two civilizations? Especially when that exchange was helping humanity understand the larger universe. One possible explanation is control. Large organizations tend to maintain stability by controlling the flow of information, and uncontrolled contact between Earth and independent civilizations could create unpredictable consequences. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting, because the official explanation that people usually hear is that the Galactic Federation shut down the Second Contact program because humanity was not ready. That's the simple answer. And when you start looking at the timing of what actually happened, the situation becomes a lot more complicated. Remember what the Second Contact program was designed to do. It was not about landing ships on Earth. It was not about a dramatic public disclosure. It was about gradual communication. Thousands of Taygetans stationed in orbit around Earth, operating from ships like the Taygetan. They would be studying humanity, communicating with people online, sharing information slowly and carefully. The goal was to normalize the idea that extraterrestrial civilizations exist, to prepare humanity psychologically, to help people understand the larger galactic environment without causing panic. And for a while, that process was working. People were learning, conversations were happening, humanity was beginning to reconnect with the idea that we are not alone. Then suddenly everything stopped. The contact program was canceled. Communication channels were restricted and infiltrated. And I believe that the Taygetan ships that had been near Earth for years eventually withdrew. Now here's the question that almost nobody asks. Why would the Galactic Federation shut down a program that was doing exactly what they claim that they want? If the Federation truly wants humanity to slowly integrate into the galactic community, then the Second Contact program was the perfect method. It was gradual, peaceful, educational. So why end it? Like I said, one possible answer is control. Large organizations maintain stability by controlling the flow of information. Direct communication between Earth and an independent civilization creates unpredictable consequences. It allows ideas to spread that are not filtered through the centralized authority. And that can be a problem for any organization that is trying to maintain order across multiple star systems, like the Federation is trying to do. Now add another detail to this timeline. Around the same period that the contact program collapsed, the Queen of Taygeta at that time was poisoned. Leadership inside the Taygetan civilization destabilized. Political tensions increased. I know I already mentioned this stuff, but it's so important. And shortly after that, the Federation pressure on the contact program intensified. Now, whether those events are directly connected or not, the timing is extremely interesting because it suggests that the shutdown of the Second Contact program was not simply about humanity being unprepared. It was about political pressure. The Taygetans were one of the few civilizations communicating directly with humans without heavy Federation control. And that kind of independence can create friction inside any large alliance. Which brings us to another group that is very important to the story, the Urmah. Another piece of this puzzle involves the Urmah. The Urmah are a feline extraterrestrial civilization with a strong culture of independence and sovereignty. Unlike many civilizations aligned closely with the Federation, the Urmah value autonomy above centralized authority. Because of that philosophy, they have sometimes clashed politically with Federation structures, just like I'm doing now. From their perspective, civilization should be free to develop without any heavy external management, and that includes humanity. Now there's another piece of the puzzle that people rarely talk about when discussing the Federation, and that is the status of Earth itself. According to multiple extraterrestrial sources, including the Taygetans, Earth is not treated like a normal member of the galactic community. It's considered a restricted world and a quarantine planet. In other words, Earth is under observation and control. Now, this policy was originally established thousands of years ago during a period of intense conflict in this region of space. During those ancient wars, various extraterrestrial factions were interfering with developing civilizations across many star systems. The Galactic Federation eventually stepped in to stabilize the situation. Their solution was to impose restrictions on direct interaction with developing planets. The idea was that young civilizations should evolve naturally without excessive outside influence. In theory, that sounds reasonable, but when you apply that policy to the Earth situation, things become much more complicated because Earth has never been left alone. For thousands of years, different extraterrestrial groups have been interacting with this planet. Genetic manipulation, ancient interventions, technological influence, even control structures that shaped human civilization. So the idea that Earth must now be isolated to preserve natural development raises an obvious question. Natural development according to whom? And who decides when humanity is ready to interact with a larger galaxy? This is where the Federation's role becomes controversial. Because if the Earth is considered a quarantine world, then independent contact between humans and extraterrestrial civilizations become a political issue, not just a scientific one. And this may help explain why the Second Contact program became such a sensitive topic. If thousands of Taygetans were communicating with humans and sharing information freely, then that communication was technically bypassing the quarantine restrictions placed on Earth. From the perspective of the Federation, that could be seen as a violation of policy. But from the perspective of independent civilizations like the Taygetans and the Urmah, the situation looks very different. They might argue that humanity has the right to know the truth about the larger universe, that Earth should not remain isolated indefinitely, and that communication between civilizations is a natural part of galactic development. So the shutdown of the Second Contact program may not simply be about humanity being unprepared. It may reflect a deeper disagreement about how Earth's future should unfold. Should humanity remain under careful supervision until the Federation decides we are ready? Or should we be allowed to reconnect with the wider galaxy on our own terms? That question is still unresolved, and it may be one of the most important political issues in our entire region of space. For most people on Earth, the idea that extraterrestrial politics could influence our planet still sounds like science fiction. But if even a small portion of this information is accurate, then humanity is standing at the edge of a much larger story. A story that involves alliances, disagreements, and competing visions for the future of our civilization. And understanding that bigger picture may be the key to understanding what really happened to the Taygetan Contact program. If independent civilizations begin communicating directly with Earth, it challenges the Federation's role as the central authority managing this region of space. This situation reveals something important about galactic politics. Just like on Earth, advanced civilizations are not all unified under one perfect system. There are disagreements. There are different philosophies, different approaches to how developing civilizations should be guided. You have your emotional races that think one way. You have your non-emotional races that are completely logical, and those are the ones running the Federation that think something another way. They just, condone the suffering. Okay? Some people believe in careful management. Other believe in freedom and sovereignty. Okay? Earth may simply be caught in the middle of those two perspectives. The story of the Taygetan Contact program raises questions that many people are still trying to understand. Why was the contact allowed to happen in the first place? Why did it suddenly stop? And why do some narratives about the Galactic Federation portray them as perfect guardians when the reality appears to be far more complex? The truth may be that the galaxy, like Earth, is full of politics. And understanding those dynamics might be the key to understanding humanity's future among the stars. I appreciate you tuning in, listening, watching. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. Have a good night.